hope you can feel us, and you're definitely about to hang out with us.
I can't tell stories authentically without honoring my own.
What I thought was humility was me playing small.
Guilt and shame have no place in the human experience.
And so to not love myself is so disrespectful.
You're a person that can get there if you don't quit.
Every conversation we've had, I leave like better, you know?
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Human to Human. I am so excited to be here with my friend, somebody I love, trust, somebody I believe in, somebody I truly sometimes like my mentor. Even though you were a friend, you have just been such a gem to me. And I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. Mr. James Glenn is in the building. What's up?
What's up? Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Happy to be here.
You know, we've been talking about this. I definitely wanted to share this story with everybody. Last summer, James sent me a text message that I don't even know if this guy realizes how much he encouraged me and inspired me and how much I realized we were connected, because the first time I realized we were super connected was at Mark Rose's house in 2018 when he had just done the TV show about Tupac. And you and I were in the kitchen eating our wings before I was vegan. And we were talking about just being multi-hyphenate people in LA, being multi-hyphenate talent and what that felt like and looked like and things that we didn't know we were gonna experience and how we shared that so deeply. It was one of my favorite human conversations before this existed. And I remember being like, man, I'm going to be connected to that guy for a while. I'm so encouraged by his journey. I'm encouraged by the way he told his truth. I was able to tell my truth to you. And then fast forward to 2020. And of course, we've been friends for a while, but 2020, you sent me a text message that said, keep doing, you know, you're supposed to be at the forefront of something right now. You're supposed to be building something. This is a season of building. And I was specifically dealing with, should I be putting human to human out? Is it the time? Am I healthy enough? Is this the kind of conversation people want to hear? You know, is my career going the right way? All those things you're dealing with during a pandemic, right? As creatives. And then I get this text from somebody that, again, I'm already so encouraged by, and it really pushed me over to the edge. And of course, you had to be a guest, not only just because of that, but that moment alone, it just meant so much to me. And I don't know what God told you that morning, but I just want to thank you for telling me, because it meant so much. It's the kind of friend you are. So just had to share that.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, Stacy, you're one of my favorite people. And sometimes I'm even struggling with what titles to put on you. And I think that's a good thing, is that when you sometimes struggle to put a title on someone, it's almost like you can't necessarily fit them into a nice, neat description. But I love having conversations with you. And I also love listening to you talk, you know, with other people, whether it is on a podcast or on a stage. I think that was my initial introduction to you, was watching you on a stage host or moderate a panel. Yeah. And I was like, wow, who's this girl? She's got it. Got the sauce, Stacy.
Man, that means a lot. That means a lot. So to get into this conversation, when I was thinking about all the different things I wanted to talk to you about, a phrase really hit home for me: passion, purpose, and praise. Right? We've had so many just conversations about that. I've gotten to see you have conversations with other people about those three words. And I realized, oh, they blend. Passion to be a creative, the purpose in being a creative, or not even just being a creative, following whatever your purpose is. And then the praise that we associate with, are we doing a good job or not? Right? And it can be difficult, and it can be beautiful, and it can be hard, and it can be strange. And I just wonder for you, I mean, you've had an amazing journey in your career. I want to make sure that you know that I see that. But I also wonder what that feels like for you. What do you experience in those ebbs and flows of purpose, passion, and praise?
You know, it's interesting when you said praise, my mind went in another direction. What I thought initially was, does this edify him?
Yes.
Does the work or the things that I do, is it in worship? Does it praise, you know, the Father? I wasn't even thinking about like the praise that I receive as a result of these things.
I love
and
that.
It's wow. And I was thinking about this in the shower because I was thinking about a project. And I'll say this: 2020 and 2019 were rough for me because I stumbled a bit in my in my confidence. And as a result, I feel as if I uh, found myself in a place where I wasn't as aligned with my purpose in terms of the things that, I feel like God has called me to do and say. And so I think it's just really cool to hear you kind of tie those three things together, because I was actually thinking about those without kind of putting words, to them. But I'm a Scorpio. So I think for me, everything is about passion. And it's just kind of what drives me. I feel like I'm a purpose-driven type of a creator and a filmmaker. I often say that for me, filmmaking is ministry, right? Because I have something to say and I want to be obedient to my truth. And so ultimately, those three things are what drives me. It's why I'm a filmmaker. It's why I'm an artist. And I do my best to stay in harmony with those three things, but it doesn't always happen. And I have come to a place where I realize I can now feel when I'm not in harmony with those things.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love that. Always going back to the root, the source, the purity of it, because your intention behind why you're creative is very pure. It always has been. And one thing I remember us being able to chat about is the fact that, and also this is a question too, the fact that we're in the industry, we both work in the entertainment industry in Hollywood, and a lot of the business is about being liked. And that's very difficult for me. I just recognize how difficult that is for me, because on the moments that I'm the most passionate, I realize somebody might not like this. And I'm like, that means I don't get to do this thing that I think is like everything. Like it's crazy, right? And so I had to really start going through a separation process of my likeness versus my purpose and what I genuinely believe that is. And so I wonder for you, have you experienced that? And what was that process for you of separating? If other people don't like this, if I'm not liked, this still matters. And I don't need to put my wealth and my worth in my likeness necessarily.
Oh my God, yes. I experience it the most with writing. And kind of going back to me saying I was losing my confidence, I had got to this place where I was starting to get writing jobs for hire, and it completely shifted what I had known up until that point, the process of writing for me, because I was just writing because I had something to say, and this is what I wanted to see, on the screen. And then when I started getting writer for hire jobs, I put a lot of pressure on myself, because then it becomes, well, are the people who are paying me, will they like it? Are they going to approve it? Am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Am I funny enough? Like all of those things. And it's a bitch. And then as a result of that, like imposter syndrome started to kick in. Because I was searching for validation outside of myself. And then I had reached this level, and then I'm questioning, can I compete, at this level? Can I perform, at this level? When the answer is yes, because it's inside of me. Like everything that I've done to get me to this place still exists, and nothing has changed. The only thing that has changed is maybe my surroundings, maybe the people that I'm working with, maybe the opportunities, but I am still who I am.
Yeah.
And I think the key is, I think the most valuable thing we have in this industry is our voice, our integrity, and our uniqueness. It's what gives us the audacity to say that someone or the masses actually want to hear what we have to say. It's like, okay, we have a podcast. Like, what is it about you that you should be on a platform speaking? And it's because that who I am and what I have to say is valuable, and it is different than anyone else out there. You know what I mean? And so I think it's important for us to just hold on to that and to value it and not just lose sight of those things.
Yeah. I think what I really recognized in a painful way last year was that this society is really built on us forgetting who we are versus loving and valuing who we are, as you just said, as you reminded us. But unfortunately, that takes a minute to get back to. And I don't think life is just about discovering. I think it's a lot about remembering who we are, right? Like we've been amazing. You have been amazing. We have been enough. But life does what it does, right? And so what parts of yourself have you had to abandon in the past to be enough? And have you picked those parts back up?
That's a really good question. Part of me, Stacy, that I have had to abandon is this a part of what I thought was humility was really me playing small.
Say that again. Say it again.
What I thought was humility was actually me playing small. And so I had to let go of this part of me that was afraid to be a lion and afraid to be aggressive or afraid to be incredibly confident in who I am and in my ability, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if necessarily if I know the word. I don't know if it's meekness, because I believe, like, of course, humility and being meek, like those things there's a place for those things.
Sure.
And a part of those things are who, makes me who a part of those things are a part of what makes me who I am. However, I think here it is, Stacy. I found it. Okay. I had to think through it because a friend told me this. A friend told me not to be afraid of my shadow. And she's like, James, you're always leaning into your light. And that's great because you are a light, but there's also a shadow side of you. And it's a part of who you are, and you can't be afraid to lean into it. And so the way I interpret it, I don't have to always be the person that wants to be liked all the time. Sometimes you can stand on what you want. You can stand on your no's.
Right.
No may upset them, but if no is what sets you free, if no is your truth, then stand in that.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the part of me that I had to let go in order to really step into my fullness. And it's also, I think, an ongoing process for me because it's almost like an unlearning. Because this is who I've learned to be, to survive, to be liked,
to be paid.
Yeah. It's a part of my bag of tricks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And even I'm a 6'6" Black man. And so I already walk into a room and I'm intimidated. And so I've learned to disarm that intimidation that I naturally come with by being very polite, by always putting on a smile, and sometimes not being aggressive because, I don't want people to look at me in a certain way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to be a lion. Sometimes you got to eat.
Yeah.
Or you will be devoured.
You will definitely be devoured. Like, these people do not care. And I think we're all groomed first of all, we're all so groomed in a different way. But that underlying thing is everybody's trying to be first in some kind of way, right? And then those who pick up the humility end up being last. And they think that it's like they'll get there because of their niceness or their politeness or all those things. And that's something that really got to me last year. I recognize how many more no's I actually authentically wanted to say versus the ones I actually said, because I don't want to disappoint people. I don't want this. I don't want all those things that are like, have nothing to do with you actually. Yeah. Sorry, I can see your voice.
It's like, for me, I never want to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm always mitigating other people's expectations.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's at the expense of myself. It's at the expense of what I really want, or even what I'm feeling led or called to. I'm like, well, fuck, I don't want to hurt this person's, feelings, or for them to then think a certain way of me. In particular, as you start to find more and more success, you start to realize that A, everybody can't come, with you. And then also B, you have to guard your energy and also your slate. You can't be a part of everything. You can't say yes to everything. And then there's this fear of people saying that, oh, you changed. Oh, you've become Hollywood, right? And what I realized is, oh, that's a compliment. When people say you changed, thank you.
Oh my gosh, I have.
Because that's the purpose is not to say the same.
Mm-hmm.
Are my morals and my character, those things are still the same, but I have to evolve in order to perform at this level. That's part of life. So thank you. I have changed.
I love that. I think we do get afraid of hearing that. We do feel like it means one thing, and versus I've recognized where my ego has tried to protect me by saying, oh, you don't want this from this person. And ego has its good and its bad. And I would love to also find out what your relationship with your ego is and how it shows up. But I've just recognized times where my ego shows out to do things. And I'm like, oh, actually, I don't need you right now. Because the truth is I have changed. I don't have to get upset when somebody says that, because the truth is I have. It's not a negative thing. I have not changed as a negative person, but I recognize I just chose to love myself more. That's really when people get freaked out. Honestly, I think so. Yeah. It's like, people are like, what you mean you love yourself and care about who you are and your time? Like it's shock. And I get it too, because it was shocking when it happened to me. It's still happening. We're still evolving.
Yeah. Because it's when you really sit and think about it, and I'll say this from a personal place, the amount of times I chose other people over myself. And it's like this saying that if I asked you, of all the things that you love, how long would it take for you to name yourself? You know what I mean? And I think it's tied to that. It's like this, we talk about self-care so much, in particular coming out of the pandemic in 2020, when I don't know if folks are really talking about self-care is also like choosing you. It's like my friend Amanda Sills has this thing now, like save yourself. And I had to come to a place of realization that I wasn't always doing that, but I'm learning.
Did that disorient you in the role you thought you were supposed to play versus the role you actually are going to play in life?
Yeah, because I consider myself to be a helper, to be a giver. And I had allowed, I don't know what it is, to convince me that if I wasn't doing those things all the time, if I wasn't accessible to people, that I wasn't helping or giving the way that I should. But, there are limits. We're not God. There are limits to, and I think what it is also, it was learning boundaries and learning that, yes, you can be a giver. Yes, you could be a helper, but there are also boundaries that you have to put in place to ensure that you don't become depleted.
Yeah.
It was a hard conversation I had to have with like one of my line brothers of getting to the place to say, hey, I know I've always been this. I've always been the one to show up, but right now I don't have the capacity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Can you talk about how you had that conversation? How did it come up? How? Yeah.
It was in my DMs. He was reaching out, and it was pandemic, and he was going through some tough emotional, things. And I'm typically the one that will show up to have that conversation. Like, you want to work through some stuff. You're trying to create a strategy, a business plan. You want to have a deep spiritual talk. Like, folks know I'm typically available, or I'm with the shits, those things. But in this particular, moment, I was like, I don't have them. I just don't have the capacity right now.
Right.
And it was just being honest and saying those things and not even trying to mince words or trying to be cute about it. It was I don't have the capacity right now. And being able to say it with my chest and then not feel guilty about it.
Man, can we talk about that? Yes.
And I'll say he internalized it. He didn't take it well. And even months later, we've had a conversation about it. And I've yet to allow myself to feel guilty about standing in that truth.
Sure.
I get it might have hurt your feelings, but that was my truth. I didn't have it.
Sure.
To give. And so, yeah.
We don't talk about that enough. We have been preaching, like you said, we've been preaching self-care, self-love. And I had a conversation with Michelle Williams on the podcast as well about the depths of what that means. And what we're saying it like it's an Instagram quote, but it's not. The real work, first of all, is offline. And secondly, it's brutal. It's brutal to find out how much you've abandoned yourself for other people. It doesn't mean that you didn't mean to love people in a certain way, but we just forget to love ourselves first and really recognize what that means. Boundaries, I think, have a lot more residue. Like, for you to say a couple months later, he still might not get it. That's hard. I don't expect you to because I have definitely turned around and been like, never mind, forget what I said. Just kidding. I have the capacity now, right? Because you're like, wow, you're still upset? Like, that's uncomfortable to carry that truth and stand in it. I'm proud of you for saying I'm staying in it. But we We forget to talk about how boundaries can be difficult. Doesn't mean you shouldn't still do it, but they're difficult. And I wonder if there's other opportunities, or not opportunities, but places that that's shown up, maybe with parents or with best friends or siblings, where it's like, I have to commit to this.
For sure. Like, so I got in therapy for the first time. And
Congratulations.
In the pandemic. Thank you.
Yeah,
and
me
so
too.
I now have a language that I did not have before.
Yeah.
And I have a mirror that I did not have before. And someone who is completely outside of my circles. They do not know the players involved, and they're able to look at my actions and my patterns in a very objective way. And then there's also this level of accountability that sometimes becomes uncomfortable because, like, I would have these conversations with in therapy, and I would then get an assignment to go and have conversations with friends or family members.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? I would be like, I just don't feel like going there. I don't feel like being uncomfortable, you know? And so, but next week is going to come up again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get the question, did you have the conversation? And I'm like, fuck, I know she's going to ask. So I just need to, and then there was like I would come, when I would have the conversations, I would then come to therapy like a student who had done his homework, you know, I can come proud. And I was ready to report back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now it's definitely shown up with family. And I had a season of just honest conversations. And yeah, it was good though.
How did that go? Yeah. I was like, how was that?
It was great. Like overall, I walked away from every single one of those conversations feeling great about myself, like feeling great about the talk.
Yeah.
No regrets, no remorse, no bad feelings at all around it. And I think I am lighter and freer as a result.
Yeah. What's something in addition to therapy? I'm so glad that was experience for you. It's also something I experienced as well. First time in therapy. It's been, I think, 6 to 8 months. It's definitely, there's parts of myself that I was hiding from myself. And yeah, she's good. So I wonder, are there parts that you also recognize that have made you a better creative, given you a different insight or perspective to even keep going that you have learned?
Yeah.
Or maybe has taken you away from something that you thought was important to you and find out it really wasn't?
I think it was just trusting myself. Ultimately, it's a thing that I've been able to get a better handle on. I'm believing it a lot more. And I think ultimately that's making me a better creative.
Yeah.
But I had to really sit down and put some things on paper. Like at one point, I used to have stickies around my apartment that just said, remember who you are, because I would forget,
Oh, good.
you know,
So good.
I would often forget. You know, I was a big fan of Game of Thrones, and I started comparing the type of energy I wanted to possess and walk through this world. I was looking at like Daenerys Stormborn and how she was just so confident in what was owed to her.
Yeah.
on the Iron Throne.
Right.
She knew exactly who she was, and it did not matter what the Lannisters thought. It did not matter what any other house thought. She knew that she was the mother of dragons, that she was the Khaleesi of the Great Grass Sea, that she was the unburnt and the unbroken.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I was like, I want that. I want to show up and I want to take up space and I want to show up knowing what is owed to me.
Yeah.
You know? That I deserve to sit on the throne because I am a child of God, because, you know, he said that he will give me the desires of my heart, you know? So why shouldn't I walk through the world as if I deserve every single thing that he's promised? And I realized that I was not doing those things.
Yeah.
And I wasn't showing up in that way. And a part of it too, and what therapy has done, is it goes back to childhood trauma. And I learned to play small just throughout my life. And even being 6'5", 6'6", I never liked my height. I never really wanted to stand out. I always wished I was shorter. And so I would find ways to kind of, shrink.
Mm.
And it's even when I go to concerts, I always feel bad. I always feel like, I gotta like duck because I don't want to, I don't know, obstruct someone else's view. Like I'm
Yeah.
always kind of doing that. Like I find myself, even when I'm in conversation with people, I will naturally try to come down to that level. I never just stand in it and be like, you got to figure out how to get up here. Like, I'm sorry.
It is what it is.
Here, but I'm not coming down,
Oh,
So it was like, man, I do that a lot. And I don't want to do that anymore.
yeah.
I want to stand 10 toes down, 6'6" and take up all of the space because
Yes.
this is who God has created me to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a little overwhelmed by that because I just recognize how much as humans we do this, right? Like everyone has that thing that they decided not to make sure everybody could address them as so that they could make other people feel comfortable. I'm not sure why we do this because there are also a good amount of people who were like, I'm not doing that. Like they figured it out at like 6. I don't know. But obviously there's so, and I don't know if it's just about being creative, but I wonder how you approach being creative now than you did, let's say even 10 years ago. Like, let's say there's somebody who wants to be creative now. Would you give them different advice? What's that different advice you would say in approaching standing tall? It doesn't matter your actual height, doesn't matter your color, but specifically, let's definitely encourage Black people because I also recognize that a lot of Black creatives, we feel like we have to fall in a certain hole and get dug out later because we want other people to feel it's just it's an interesting complex that I'm like, why? No, wanting us to push forward. But I would love to see, how would you approach being creative now? Let's say you were just starting.
I would just have more audacity. I would have the audacity to believe that my dreams have the right to become a reality, that the things that I create are worthy of awards, that what I have to say is like valid. And I think I realized I think we all have this.
Yeah.
Before someone else validates us, we don't, we kind of like, I got this little podcast or I got this little, TV show. We naturally downplay our projects. And I don't know if it's that we don't feel as if it's at the level yet. And so we don't want people to judge it, or we feel like we're not at our best.
Right.
And so it's like, let me just give you this disclaimer just in case you don't like it, versus stepping into it and say, I don't care. It goes back to what we were saying. But can you let go of this desire to be liked? And I think I would create in that space a bit more. And I'm a huge advocate of being a student of your craft, of always learning and growing and studying and those things. So it's not to say, create as if you don't have any growth or that you can't be better, but just have the audacity to believe that your shit is good.
You brought up a great point. What is something that you used to do to prove that you now do to improve?
Then I used to do to prove that I now do to improve. I don't know.
Maybe that was never a part of your.
You go first. Maybe you'll spark.
Ooh,
spark something for me.
That's good. That's good. I tried to prove I was the best by being everywhere.
Okay.
I needed to be at every event and I needed to support everybody. And I needed to be like the nice, cool girl. Even though I think there was a part of me that authentically is a nice, cool girl, but I also needed to prove that I was the nice, cool girl, right? Like I'm showing up at every event because so many of the events I was paid for in the very beginning was because I was there. That was very scary to realize that, like, I would show up at an event and 2 days later I get a call. I'm like, oh, I saw you at this thing and you were on my mind and now I want to offer you something. And I was like, I was on your mind because you saw me, which means I need to be seen everywhere. Like that really got to me.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight. That was my first experience of realizing if they don't see me, they will not know me. Yeah. And that took some serious unlearning because you can never keep that up. Like that's not sustainable. Right. And when you find out and you have a burnout, which my burnout was also in 2019 before the pandemic. So it was a harsh reality of like, you don't have enough clothes for, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like you need to be improving your craft. Right. So then I'm going back to, yes, you're good. And I know you're good. I know you're great. But have you watched an interview this week or are you at events? Right. Yeah. Like what you doing? Mm-hmm. So then you go back to the drawing board. Then you go back to creating something that's just because you have something to say, because it's amazing.
For sure.
The people who will see it. And they'll probably still offer you the job or whatever. Even if they don't, it's not about that. I really had to reckon with that. And I think it's still a journey. I definitely know that my no's have been stronger and better than they ever have been, but they're still new. And I still have moments of a little bit of guilt when I say them or not responding immediately or things like that. And I'm willing to say, oh, I'm so sorry, but my sorry isn't rooted in, are they going to respond? Like it's a work in progress, but I would definitely say my proof to improve was, why do I need to be everywhere? I can't. I'm just me. I'm just me. Yeah.
That's really good. And I also recognize in that there's a balance to it.
Yeah,
and
of course.
The trick is trying to find that balance.
Yeah.
I think for me, the things that I used to do to prove that I was humble, that I was not like cocky or conceited or any of those things, was I would just downplay stuff. Or I would be that friend when, you know how you meet someone and they say, oh, so like, what do you do? Or what do you have going on? I would never run my resume. Yeah. And it would always require another friend to say, oh, he's being modest. Like he has an Emmy award-winning drama series. I never lead with those things.
Oh my God.
And to me, I don't know, I guess I thought it was being pretentious or and so very similar to what I said in terms of the balance with you, I think I have to find that balance because I don't want to be like a name dropper. I don't want to be someone who wears their resume on their shoulders because I've met those folks. It's like, and you realize that their validation is attached to the things that they've done.
Right.
And my validation doesn't lie there. However, I heard someone say this years ago and I thought it was dope. And I don't know if I've fully implemented it, but this idea that you have to speak louder than your work, because I always believe that good works has legs. Like if you know me, you know me.
Right.
If you've seen it, you've seen it. Like, I can't, I don't got to be out here shouting from the rooftops. Like if you know, you know.
Right.
I thought that was cool. But sometimes it's like how also the word says a closed mouth don't get fed. Or no, I don't think the word says that. The word says
the word we made up.
Maybe the word according to Natasha, but the word says we have not because we ask not.
Yeah.
I think a closed mouth don't get fed is.
It's something we all came up in 20. That's so good. It does feel like Bible though. It really does.
But you have not because you ask not.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to open your mouth and you have to speak things. You have to put things into the atmosphere. You have to put things into the universe. Yes. Sometimes you have to introduce yourself and say, hello, my name is James Bland. I have an Emmy award-winning television show. It's good to meet you. Now, let's talk business. You know what I mean?
Ooh, that gave me chills.
So, because I think about going back to Khaleesi.
Yeah.
She would roll up and say, hey, I am the mother of dragons.
Yeah.
I am the unburnt, the unbroken. And so there's no question about, who she is. And so of course, I think we all want to get to a place where we can walk into a room and we don't have to introduce ourselves because people just know. Like Beyonce ain't got to come in and you ain't got to see, girl, we know.
Right.
We've seen it.
we went to the concert. We were there.
I think that is a goal, but, I ain't there yet. And so I think I can get to a place where I can introduce myself and stand 10 toes down, flat-footed, 6'6", in all of my glory and all of my success and not feel bad about it.
Absolutely. There's so much to follow up with that. Okay. So first I'm going to also practice with you. Hi, I'm Stacy. I was the first live host on the Oprah Winfrey Network without an audition. I currently have a podcast called Human to Human. Nice to meet you.
I love it. It's a pleasure to meet you. Wow. So, Stacy, I think I might have an opportunity for you. I have someone that you have to meet. You know what I mean?
I look forward to it. Thank you so much. So
cool.
I can't lie to you. Our mutual friend CJ was a big part of reminding me of that. Like I did not want that to be my calling card. Like immediately after the show happened, I was like, I can't be that. I can't be Oprah's girl. I got to be Stacy because I don't want to be on anybody's tail. It was so weird. And I didn't meet CJ for a couple months after, and we became closer friends later on. But I remember telling him something about my resume and he was like, you don't lead with the Oprah thing? I was like, no. And he was like, I don't get it. I'm like, it's been 2 years. He was like, I don't care if you're, he was like, that only happened to you. And it was just such a moment that that was a practice for me because it's not something I do normally. It's not something I know both of us. I've just heard both of us in a room. I'm like, we're both amazing. Everybody, like, it's not even about people should be talking or approaching us. It's just the truth of our power, right? And why I was so excited about doing this episode with you is because I needed these energies to mesh so that they expand to all of our listeners, all of our viewers, everybody who is tuning into Human to Human, because you are also enough. This is so important for us to remember and remind each other, because I've had several conversations with you that helped me do that, but also that one with CJ, I was like, dang, I really don't bring this up.
Yeah.
So that was hard.
Yeah. And then it's kind of like the why. And I think what I was hearing you say is that you just don't want to ride on the coattails of Oprah, but why not? Like, if you're going to ride on some coattails, those are some expensive coattails, and it's not to say that you aren't worthy or that you didn't do the work to get there.
Right.
But I think sometimes we miss our boat. And that's ego.
Yeah.
Because it's the idea that if someone else provides a platform or a stepping stool or a stepping stone for us, that we're not self-made, or in a way, which is not the case, because you still had to, everything that you did in order for that person to see that you are worthy of this stepping stone. Because she ain't gonna just give the stepping stone to everybody.
To anybody.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, what is that? Like that story about how the guy was in the ocean drowning and he was praying, God save me, God save me.
Yes.
And he set the boat, and the boat came, and it was like, nah, God gonna save me. And
he's like,
God was like, why you didn't save me? He's like, why you didn't save me? He's like, nigga, I sent the boat.
The boat? You ain't see that boat that came through and said, come on, like.
I sent you a boat, but your ego would not allow you to take it, It's
such a beautiful point that you brought up ego, because our relationship with our ego, first of all, I think we idolize being self-made. I personally do not want to identify as being self-made at any stage I end up or am going, because I'm not self-made. Do you know how many people are on speed dial willing to hear me cry or talk or explain or try again? There's how many text messages I've screenshotted from friends who have pulled me up. Like, none of us are as self-made as we think. And there is this idolization around, not just entrepreneurship, but creativity, all those things. And it's like, this was my idea. This was my thing. And it's like, nothing is ours. Everything is given to us because of the energy that we're all here circulating. And if we don't stand in our thing, the next person doesn't have the permission to stand in their thing. So are we really self-made?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And do I even aspire to? Like, I get the concept around it in terms of no one gave me anything, and I think what it really comes from is knowing that you didn't have a silver spoon in your mouth, that you didn't have rich parents, that you had to go out and hustle and you had to grind. But at the end of the day, we all are a culmination of the people that we've encountered. And we all had to have somebody help us.
Yes.
It's just the way it works. It's the cycle.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I guess really none of us are self-made.
Yeah.
And we should not feel bad about that at all.
That took me a minute to realize. But honestly, my dad gave me a huge speech about it. So we mentioned like being self-made in the house, and he went on a speech. And I was like, you are actually right. That was intense, but you're right. I mean, it was just a very serious speech about how important God felt we all were and are, that he sent so many people around us. Like, how could we even think we're self-made? I'm like, you're so right. I have so many people that are a reflection of where I am right now.
Even when I think about that, even those words is kind of diminishing to the creator, because we didn't make ourselves.
Right.
Like we were knitted in our mother's womb. Like God, he molded us, he created us. And so even, I guess, when I now think about even the use of those words, I'm self-made, I didn't make me. Like I didn't have anything to do with it.
Because if I made me, I would have skipped all those years where my taxes didn't make any sense and I didn't understand what was going on. I would have skipped all that. I would have skipped the years I was working at the mall. Like, there would have been some real and more different intentionality. That's all I'm saying. Like,
exactly. Because if I made me, my calves would have been a little bit bigger.
You know what I'm saying?
There would have been some things that would have been different.
So I have to really sit in who made me and why I'm made this way and why we are made this way. And that's why I love Giants and what it represents. And I mean, I got to be a part of it, right? And I got to collab with you and exchange energy with you. And one thing I love, and I recognize this on a creator and a production and a founder and a CEO level, right? Because you have built so much, yes, but you also have asked for help along the way. And what gives you the confidence to ask for help? Because to shoot these stuff that you have made, and I'm specifically, I'll talk about Giants. If you guys haven't seen Giants, check it out. But it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of people. How did you find the confidence to ask for help? Because I do think we're in this space as millennials and as even Gen Z, and maybe even a little older, of I got to do it on my own, or I look a certain type of way. And it's like all that looking and thinking, that's a lot. It's kind of a waste of our time and we need help. That's just truth. I struggle with how I look when I ask for help sometimes. I really do. And it makes me, I'm like, dang, like you still struggle with that? Especially I've asked for help for so long. It's one thing I like raising my hand. I've been asking questions for a long time, but it takes some work. So I'd love to know what that process is like for you and how it makes you feel.
No, in particular with Giants, I just did not want it to be about me. And it was that simple. And I wanted Giants to be a collective effort. And I wanted it to be a vehicle that gave everyone who touched it an opportunity. And I used to compare Giants to a house, right? And I was like, everyone under this roof will be blessed. Like everyone under this roof will be taken care of. And so I used to look at it as, hey, like if you want to come and get in on this, like come and get in. It was almost like having a startup.
Yeah.
Like you better get in on the ground level.
Right, right.
Not to say I was doing anybody a favor, but this is a moving train. I got a ticket, if you wanted it. But I think it was like I just really believed in what I was building. And I knew that whoever touched it was going to be blessed. If you were able to put your hand on it, that it was going to provide, opportunities. And so I think it was that confidence that I had in what I was creating to then go out and ask for help, because I knew that it would be a great resume builder and it was a gem.
Yeah.
For everyone who was involved, we got an opportunity to work out and we all got stronger and better as a result of it.
Yeah, I love that. And I also love that when you talk about building Giants, it was so much more about having something to say, something meaningful to say, than about, and even just the illustration of having a house that everyone under will be blessed.
Yeah.
Very rarely how somebody introduced an opportunity. I think that's beautiful. I hope there's space for me to move in.
Listen.
I'm in the house.
You was in the guest room.
No, you're right. You're so right.
You were in an episode.
You're so right.
Hosted the Los Angeles premiere of the second season. You were in the house.
Yeah, it's a beautiful house. I mean, the carpets no, I'm kidding. Okay. I could go so far with this. I'd love to know, and I think creatives don't talk about this often, and I think that's why we should. How has your relationship with money affected your creativity?
Oh, that's really good. Okay, I would say my relationship with money has evolved for the better, but as far as how it has impacted my creativity, I'll go back to when I was telling you about 2019 in terms of writing for hire. And I think because there was a paycheck attached, it kind of stifled my creativity, in a way. But I realized that it was my own fault, and it was a lesson that I had to learn, as far as not allowing the fact that I'm getting paid for this job to put, I guess, additional like pressure or
Yeah.
expectation on myself to still find a way to work freely within my creativity
Yeah.
and to still trust myself.
Yeah.
But I think the challenge was because with the paycheck and with money comes deadlines, comes
Right.
notes. And so some of those things are just, it's inevitable where before somebody's paying you for it, you're just creating from this free space and you're
Of
creating because you
course.
enjoy it and because you love it. And then when money becomes involved, it becomes a job. And
Yeah.
so for me, the challenge was learning to not lose the joy in it.
Yeah.
And so I'll say that's been the relationship for me with money and creativity is there have been times where I lost the joy and I wasn't enjoying the creative process and it was becoming a job. And I was like, yo, if I wanted to do this, I could have had a 9 to 5. And so I had to figure out how do I remain just kind of free.
Yeah.
And that's been a challenge.
Yeah. No, for sure. I recognize that over the pandemic for myself as well, just how money kind of affects how we see ourselves, how we see worth, what's more worthy than the other thing. And also just realizing what you said is a balance, trying to figure out everything isn't exciting all the time. That's just life. Right. And that's a hard thing for me because I'm like, what do you mean we're not going to get to smile all the time? We're not. And it broke me a bit because I was like, this world can actually be very hard. And we have to be willing to seek our joy when it's gone and also hold on to it when it's here. But we have to be willing to know that it is an ebb and a flow. And I want to say that to everyone because this is a crazy time. I mean, we're in a different time, right? And our grandkids are not going to believe this. Like, we're going to have to show them pictures of what this year was like. We're going to have to show them receipts because it's something that I'm like, okay, God, everybody who's here right now, you clearly thought we were good to handle this because it's different. It is. There's been seasons of this. I wasn't around the 50s. I wasn't around, but this is definitely a time that I think just allows for us to learn more about truly what nuance means, what complexity means, what ebbs and flows really mean. And so I appreciate you answering that question because I want us all to know we all go through that. And money can sometimes change how we see ourselves and what's exciting and what's expected and those kind of things, especially in a creative space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I add to that?
Of course.
You can tell me, because I have a feeling you've dealt with this as well, or you may be dealing with it currently. I had a real problem as a creative setting a value worth for my time and for my work. And there were times where I was afraid to set the number too high.
Sure.
Even when other folks said, you should be charging this, I didn't feel like I was worth that. And it's like, that really sucks that you don't think you're worth X amount, of dollars, even when other people sometimes would see it or say it, like this is what you should be charging. And then also because we're creatives and because our industry ebbs and flows, it's the conundrum around, okay, I want to set, this is my worth, this is my rate. And then there are times where you want to work with the company and the budget does not align with your rate. And it's like, do I take this job because, I don't know when another job is going to come around, or do I stand firm and no, this is my rate. And if the budget does not align, that means you cannot afford me. Yeah. And so I cannot do this job.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so I think like that's the thing that we as creatives are having to juggle and find like that balance of like what to say yes to, what to say no to, when to kind of raise that rate. And it's all subjective.
It's all made up. That's the kicker. It's all made up. One person thinks they're worth this. The other person thinks they're worth this. Yes, there's a negotiation process, but even what's a starting number for people, right? And of course I have dealt with that. I recently dealt with it. When I say recent, I mean 2 weeks ago. And it was the word of this year for me is audacity. And I didn't realize what that was going to mean, that I was going to have the audacity to walk away from things that I thought was going to make me. And 2 weeks ago, I had a very interesting experience with that and recognizing, and I brought in a business manager to help me negotiate this deal. Shout out to you, Keenan, because he was like, I'm not signing you unless you're willing to walk away. That blew me. I was like, what's going on? And he was like, if you're not willing to walk away, if they don't come to terms with the number that you want,
right.
It's okay. We shouldn't even work together. Right. And that's when I knew like, okay, your word of the year is audacity. Like you're serious. And I worked with him and we had to walk away, and it was hard and beautiful and hard and beautiful.
Did you cry?
I didn't cry. I wasn't even super upset about walking away. I was more afraid of walking into the future. I was like, if it's not this, then what, God?
Yeah.
I was more mad about that. I was like, you're right. I said I wasn't going to do this. You're right. It's not the right number. I'm leaving. But then I don't know where I'm going, and that makes me more mad. Yeah. It was that. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
But like what you just unlocked.
Yes.
You about to tap in.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Tap in, yeah.
I'm excited. And I hope that encourages somebody, because it was definitely for me, man, I was like, okay, Stace, you can't just throw words like audacity around if you're not serious. You can't do that. So before we wrap, I want to make sure to ask you, what is the last thing you forgave yourself for the first time? The
last thing I forgave myself for the first time. Wow, Stacy, these are the type of questions you need a heads up for. This is like, you got to dig deep.
Human.
Yeah. What have I forgiven myself for recently? You go first.
Thank you for asking. Thank you for that. The last thing I forgave myself for, although it wasn't the first time, was not knowing. I seem to really like to beat myself up when I don't know something. I'm like, you should know this. And it's like, how would you know? It seems like that's a place I go to hide, to take care of me, to make me feel like this wasn't so bad because, well, I should have known. And it's a scary place for me because it just seems to be waiting for me when I least expect it, or even when I expect it. And so it's a constant place of forgiveness for me. The last place I forgave myself is, you cannot be mad at the things you didn't know. That is life. You're supposed to not know. You're supposed to remember. That's what we're here for. So it's getting me a little emotional, but it's definitely that thing where you're like, don't you ever get mad at the things you don't know, because now you get to learn, which is what we're doing here. So.
I love that. Yeah, I would not have thought of that, but I realize I've been in that same place.
Yeah.
I hate not being good at something. I do not like feeling like a novice. I think one thing that I've struggled with being a multi-hyphenate is the question of, will I be a master of anything? Or will I just be a jack of all trades, And so I think I've found myself in places where I had to forgive myself for not being perfect. But I'm able to forgive myself because I know that I was enough. Yes. And although I might have had this barrier kind of set in my mind that I did not hit, you did not hit.
Yeah.
Did not hit that mark.
Yeah.
But what you did was, it was fine. Like, it was okay.
Yeah.
And I find myself kind of existing in that space because I'm constantly setting these kind of marks in my head. Even as a performer, like let's say as an actor. So I'm working on a new project.
Mm-hmm.
I was a part of a writer's room summer of 2020, wrote on this new show. I then joined the cast for the show, and we started.
Oh my gosh!
We started production in 2020. And
do we already know the show?
No, it hasn't been announced yet.
Okay.
And I'm also directing an episode, right? And so there were scenes that I felt like I struggled through.
Mm-hmm.
You've probably been there in an interview or even as an actress where you feel like, because you create this idea in your head around how the scene should go, and you create these markers that you want to hit, these beats. And sometimes you get in that scene and it just does not.
Yeah.
It just
doesn't flow.
It doesn't flow.
Yeah.
And then it's over because you got to move on. And in particular with this show, we're on a tight schedule. We're shooting a lot of pages a day. And so it is moving. And so the scene comes and goes. And I would still carry the scene with me. Like we're on to a completely new scene. And I'm still thinking about the scene that I will never go back and do again. Like it's done, it's over, it's in the can. What it is what it is. And I had to learn to forgive myself for not being, I guess, what I thought I should be. I like to compare acting to endurance. Like, and you cannot have not trained and then expect to just run a marathon in a record amount of time. And so sometimes we get on the track and we run some laps to kind of show us where we're at. And it's okay. That's where you're at. That's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can forgive yourself for being at that place, but then commit yourself to getting faster, to getting better.
Yeah.
And so I would say that was my most recent thing because I'm having the opportunity to work with some pretty incredible actors. And I'll come out of a scene like, ooh, they just acted circles around me.
Oh my God.
Oh, bitch. It's like, oh, damn, double homicide. That's how I was feeling at times. Okay to not be the best in the room.
Yeah.
It's okay to not be the smartest in the room, to not be the most talented. Like that is okay. And forgive yourself. And I don't even know if there's anything necessary to forgive.
Sure.
But you know, you are who you are. And where you're at is where you're at. It doesn't mean you have to stay there. It doesn't mean you evolve into a new place. Or it doesn't mean there won't be a time where you will be the best in the room.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And so take these opportunities and these moments as a time to self-reflect. Let it be a mirror, and then get to work.
Wow. I said that was my last question, but I really want to keep going here. Wow. Something I heard really amazing within that story was the art of letting go is just really real.
Yeah.
It's just so real. And I was going to say it with a little more aggression, but it's mostly because this is why Human to Human started. We have to know our worthiness is innate.
Yeah.
Besides living and dying, that's the only other thing I recognize that's a birthright. I'm already worthy and you're already worthy and we are already worthy. So all this other stuff is just stuff.
Yeah.
They're just things that kind of ping us like, ooh, okay, I want to get a little better here. Cool. Imagine if we just said cool and let it go and didn't talk about it at lunch or bring it up or journal about it or whatever. Not to say that we shouldn't journal because I love journaling. It's all my thing. Hopefully there's a Human to Human journal coming soon. Point is, it's supposed to be there to let it go, not to haunt us or to tell us we're not enough. And it's this whole human thing is kind of a struggle sometimes because of those things that we forget.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like I was just listening to Iyanla Vanzant on The Breakfast Club, and Charlemagne asked her, like, when do you reach a place of wholeness? And she says, when you take your last breath, because that's what being human and alive is all about. We're constantly growing and evolving and learning new things and hopefully striving to be better, to be a better version of who we, was yesterday. I want to be a better James today, and that is the process.
Amazing.
And the moment that I guess you're happy with or complacent, then what else is left?
Yeah. What's the most important thing to you right now?
Authenticity. I just want to honor my authenticity. And that means having a tough conversation. That means hurting someone else's feelings.
Sure.
That means walking away or saying no. I just want to honor what is real and what is true for me.
Yeah.
And not apologize for it.
I love it. And I'm standing right there with you. Standing right there with you. I just want to thank you so much for sharing space with me and for sharing space with this audience and these people who I believe we are all on a journey together. And I really want this to be a space of arms linked, because this journey, first of all, it's not alone. And second, it's so much more involved. It's not an individual journey, even though we've been telling ourselves that for a long time. It's very, very much of a communal journey. And I think the faster we realize that, the better. And so as a person who is a part of your community, I just want to say I love you. And I'm so grateful for your existence and your constant unveiling of your authenticity. It's beautiful to watch and to see.
I love you as well. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
And thank you for the invitation. And it's why we do this, right?
Yeah.
I think we do podcasts and we do these talks because we recognize that it cannot just be about us.
Yeah.
And that once we get it, we got to pass it. You know, to help somebody else.
Yeah. Y'all, it's time to wrap because I've been fighting back tears for the past 15 minutes. So, James, where can everybody keep in touch with you?
You can find me on Instagram at JRBland, also on Twitter at JRBland.
Amazing. And can we hear I know you and Vanessa are currently writing Giants the movie. Anything else you want to give us there?
So working on this new project. Not sure when they're going to announce it. We got to finish shooting it. We got shut down due to COVID. Currently directing a documentary project, and I'm super excited about. Yeah, and I have a few projects in development. You know, nothing that's at the announcement stage, but it's in the oven.
Thanks for watching Human to Human. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, leave a comment, and while you're at it, share this with someone you love or just someone you like, as long as you share it. Stay connected between episodes on Instagram at Human to Human with Stacy Ike. Let's be curious, let's be in community, and let's stay connected.